Hey everyone, I'm Will. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking the Oscars. Sure, it's not Tuesday, but with the Oscars coming up this weekend, I wanted to talk about them. Despite being a big movie fan, I've never actually seen all the Best Picture nominees, except for this year, when I finally managed to make it through all 9 before the Oscars came around. Considering I've probably watched more of the nominated films than most of the voting members of the Academy, I'm going to rank the Best Picture nominees, as well as giving some predictions for the other categories. Now, for the most part, the Best Picture nominees this year are really fucking good. And that's why, instead of trying to arrange them one after the other, I'm going to be putting them in tiers of quality, because it's very hard for me to pick a favorite this year. So, the lowest tier has only one movie in it. And if you follow me on Twitter, you would know that that movie is Joker. The fact that this movie is nominated for anything other than the acting and the score blows my mind. Joaquin Phoenix is great, the score is lovely, but other than that, this movie is the most fake deep nonsense I've ever seen in my life. It pretends to have things to say about mental health, about society, but it's just a ripoff of better Scorsese movies and has gotten far more credit than it deserves. Other than Joaquin Phoenix and the score, I really can't think of that many redeeming qualities of this movie. If it wins Best Picture this year, I'll have lost all my faith in the Academy, because the fact that it's even nominated in this category is kind of an insult to the other movies that came out this year. I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker was a bad movie, more than I enjoyed Joker. And I love comic books. I can't imagine why you would enjoy this movie other than begrudgingly admitting that Joaquin Phoenix delivers an excellent performance as Arthur. The idea that both the director and the fans have taken this film and discussed it as if it's something much bigger than it is, and what it is a comic book movie, will never make sense to me. It doesn't have anything useful to say. Catherine Langford's character in Knives Out offers more insightful social critique than Arthur does in Joker. I cannot understand how this movie is nominated for Best Picture. The next tier I'm going to be talking about are movies that were, pretty good. In fact, they were really good, but they're not in my top tier of Oscar-nominated films. Keep in mind that I enjoy these an awful lot, and I'm not saying they don't deserve to be nominated, because they absolutely do. However, I wouldn't put them at the top of my list for 2019. The 3 films in this category are Ford v Ferrari, 1917, and The Irishman. Going in order with the things that I liked about this movie, we're going to start with Ford v Ferrari, which was like the second Best Picture nominated film I saw. It's very well acted, and the racing scenes are very exciting to watch. It's a lot of fun, but I just don't think it's anything crazy special. Plus, I feel like they could have ended it like 15 minutes before they did. The tone shift at the end feels really dramatic and forced, and I just wish they had ended it before they did. Another one of the movies in this tier is 1917, written, directed, and produced by Sam Mendes. I mean, the writing is nothing special, of course, because, it's a war movie, and while it's well acted, the writing isn't anything crazy. Of course, it all comes down to the cinematography, which, if Roger Deakins doesn't win another cinematography Oscar for this movie, I will lose my goddamn mind. The technical aspect of making this film look as if it's only 2 unbroken shots for the entire movie is unbelievably impressive. For that same reason, I think Sam Mendes will win the Best Directing Oscar. While I would argue that someone else should get it, and we'll get there, the technical ability he has to display in directing his actors to perform as if there's no breaks in filming is genuinely very impressive. It's just a pretty good war movie, and that's why it's in my middle tier. Finally, in this category, we're going to put The Irishman, because while it's a pretty enjoyable Scorsese mob movie, it's 3.5 hours long. It's much longer than it needs to be. I don't think it was boring. I'm going to link this awful article in the description below from a person who actually gets to vote on movies where they talk about utter nonsense. And one of their points is that The Irishman is boring. I disagree. The Irishman is not a boring movie, despite the fact that it's longer than it should be. It's engaging throughout the whole film, but it should be shorter, and it just feels like we've gotten better Scorsese mob movies. I think Goodfellas is a more enjoyable movie, and that's why I put Irishman in my mid-tier instead of top tier. This is absolutely not a vendetta against streaming movies, which provide platforms to a lot of people who have traditionally been excluded from those. Sure, Martin Scorsese doesn't fit into that category, but I respect Netflix for giving marginalized creators a chance to share their art with the world. The next tier is also one movie. This is high tier. I really enjoyed it, and that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The screenplay is, of course, very good, and who doesn't like DiCaprio and Brad Pitt being in a movie together? Plus, Tarantino's overly stylized violence and fun alternate history makes it a good time. I mean, I really liked this movie. It was fun to watch, but the only reason that people think it might win Best Picture is because Hollywood types like to vote for movies about themselves, and here we are. I do believe, though, that it deserves to be nominated. It's a great movie, one of Tarantino's best, and I'm glad it's nominated. I just personally wouldn't pick it as my favorite. Now for the top tier, what some of you gamers might call the S tier, and that contains 4 of my favorite movies from last year. Jojo Rabbit.
You two seem to be getting on well.
She doesn't seem like a bad person.
Marriage Story. Little Women.
To be a famous writer.
Yes, but it sounds so crass when she says it.
And Parasite.
Jojo
Rabbit is hilarious and super adorable, heartwarming. I love it. If I had a gun to my head, I might pick it as my favorite on this list. I love Taika Waititi. I love everything he's done, and this movie is great. It's funny the whole time, but also very sweet and heartwarming and sad at parts. I really like Jojo Rabbit. I mean, I don't think it'll win, and I don't necessarily think it should win, but it was one of the most enjoyable movie watching experiences I had last year. Next, I'm going to talk about Marriage Story, which is very well written, but it all comes down to the spectacular acting of Scarlett Johansson and my favorite actor in Hollywood, who's of course Adam Driver. Adam Driver is the only reason anyone cares about Kylo Ren, and yes, you can @ me on that one. It's brilliantly acted. I don't have a lot to say that hasn't been said. Sure, Noah Baumbach should have been nominated for a Best Director, given that he got these great performances out of these actors. But the person who was undoubtedly snubbed the most for a Best Director nomination is the person who directed the next movie I'm going to talk about, Greta Gerwig for Little Women. I mean, I've always liked Greta Gerwig. If you talk to anyone in my family, the first thing you'll tell you is that she went to the same high school as my sisters, but more than that, she's an excellent filmmaker. She's a brilliant writer and a brilliant director. The performances in this movie are excellent. If I could, I would have nominated Laura Dern for both this movie and for Marriage Story, because I think she does really well in both, but Florence Pugh and Saoirse Ronan are so great. Saoirse Ronan is tied for my pick for Best Actress with Scarlett Johansson, and Florence Pugh delivers an excellent performance and makes people actually kind of care about Amy, which, from what people told me, is really hard in an adaptation of Little Women. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the film that I believe deserves to win Best Picture, and that's Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho. It's a brilliant class commentary. It's a lot funnier than I expected it to be. I mean, all the impressions I got were that it was a borderline horror movie, but it's fucking hilarious. When it does get those horror elements, they're incredibly effective, and this movie stuck with me for days since I saw it. Since it didn't get a big theatrical release around me, it was the last Best Picture nominated movie I saw, and I can't stop thinking about it. Everything it has to say is genuinely profound in a way that Joker could only dream of. Honestly, I beg you, please rent Parasite on Amazon, or if it's gonna get a new theatrical release, go see that, because Parasite is a great movie. Alright, now that we've made it through the Best Picture nominees, I'm going to give my prediction on this category and some predictions on the others. Based on everything I've read, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to win Best Picture, so I'm going to predict that, but Parasite should win, and I want to be on record for that. The easiest money of the night is Laura Dern in Marriage Story for Best Supporting Actress. Florence Pugh is great, Scarlett Johansson's great, but Laura Dern is going to win that Academy Award. If she doesn't, I urge you to tweet at me with nothing but the clown emoji, because I'm willing to stake my reputation on this one. Final category I'm going to talk about is directing. While Sam Mendes is going to win, Bong Joon-ho should win, and once again, I want to be on record saying that Bong Joon-ho did an incredible job with Parasite, and he deserves to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, Best Original, and Best Director. Even though I would really like if Knives Out could win Best Original Screenplay. And, I don't know, let's have Jojo Rabbit for Best Adapted. Give Taika an Oscar. And that's what I think about the Oscars this year. I'm really looking forward to watching them. My mom and I always make it a big deal every year. We watch the whole ceremony. Please leave your opinions on the movies and some of your predictions in the comments below. Hit the like button so I feel good about myself. Subscribe to the channel if you want more ice cold takes like the ones you just saw, because I'm very dumb and have bad opinions. Thank you so much for watching, and for real this time. I will see you next Tuesday.